let me just find it because we're so disorganized. All right. We're going to go a little bit out of order. We're going to start with the continuation of the public hearing to modify the commercial component of special permit TOV for Village Commons at 1 Gleason Street. And then we'll do the release of the security bond for the orchards. We'll do the consideration of a proposed minor modification for site plan approval for Phase 2 of CSX Transflow Station on Walkup Drive. Then we'll do the discussion of the Ridings 2 subdivision, a continuation of the public hearing for 165 Flanders, and a vote to release the balance of the erosion control bond for CarMax. It being past 6:30, Farouk, we're going to start with the Village Commons. I know you have another meeting, and I agreed to move this up. Just really quickly, I know...
One second, Mr. Chairman. Can you please note that this meeting is being recorded as you normally do?
Sure. Thanks for the reminder. This meeting is being recorded. All right, so let's begin.
Okay. Am I ready? Yeah. I'd like to thank the planning board for giving me the opportunity to come in, first and do this, as I had a conflict somewhere else. We did submit the two plans, two plans. One is a layout plan, and one is the layout of all the bedrooms. And these plans are based on our conversation that we had in one of the work sessions with the planning board, members of the planning board. So we have now agreed to doing 19 units in all in one building as everybody wanted it, and removed those three freestanding townhouses. They're gone, and that added to the green space more because it's all in one building now. So that's the major thing that we did to the plan. The rest is pretty much the same. And I also submitted a layout of the bedrooms of those, the split between the 3-bedroom, the 2-bedroom, and the 1-bedroom. And we are proposing 3 bedrooms and 10 2-bedrooms and 5 1-bedrooms. So that adds up to 19. That's basically what we're hoping to get the approval from the planning board so we can finish up the final plans and come in front of you as soon as we can to get this ball rolling.
Okay, so it looks like you added 9 spaces where those 3 townhouses are. When I look at the parking calculations, are we still looking for a waiver on parking? 6 spaces?
I was told by Randy that once we get this thing, approved, he feels that he can create more parking spaces by tweaking a few things around. He has not done that yet, but he feels that we'll have enough parking where we won't need any waivers.
So you don't think you'll need the waiver?
Right. That's what I was told.
All right, questions from the board? This one?
Yeah, that was an old thing.
Which one are you looking for?
There was an old plan delivered a long time ago. This one,
Yeah.
where there was a turn at the end. In other words, the building went this way and then turned this way. Okay? And was there any thought of being able to do something like that, which I think remember this plan?
Yeah, can you show me?
And there's a turn this way?
You're talking about the commercial buildings, right?
No, I'm talking about the residential. I don't know where that plan came from. See the picture there?
Yeah,
No, it's
there's like an
it's
L-shaped,
an L
L-shaped building.
versus a straight shape. I really, quite frankly, am not in favor of a 4-story building sitting in that spot. I just think it is going to so detract from that whole visual conception of that project, and that's what's been bothering me. I'm delighted that you're willing to look at making instead of doing a second commercial building, doing a residential building. So I'm not opposed to that aspect of it. I think that's a great idea. But, I just feel that I wanted to see something with a little more thought in how we could deal with this property so that we didn't have a 4-story building, which I think is really going to, as far as the viewscape goes, they're going to be fairly unattractive. And that's what's bothering me. I know it's, it's not a planning, well, it's sort of a planning thing. I can argue that it's a planning thing. And, I was wondering whether perhaps there's some sort of an L shape like this particular picture, if anybody remembers seeing it, as a possibility, and cut it down to 3 stories versus 4, and with the same number of units. So I don't know whether anybody else has any ideas along those lines.
So the only issue if we did something like that, we would lose probably a little more parking and a little more green space. And I think green space over at Donia is pretty important.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the problem. With a 3-story building with the same number of units, the building would be much larger footprint, so you'd have a corresponding loss of green space.
Well, I don't know. I mean, this particular picture, we may have some loss of green space, but I think, we're going to balance these two things together. And, as far as the green space versus, also the look of the entire project. And I think that's what I was trying to do, was look at it. You still have green space there. Most of the green space that's been proposed there is probably going to be small enough that we're not going to use it like a ball field, just because of the amount of area there. And it's really, there may be benches there and things like that so that, people could go out with their kids and, play on a lawn part. But it's something I'd just like to throw up to the board to think about a little bit, based on my concerns with this 4-story building.
I agree the L is more appealing, but definitely on that plan, but I'm just worried about the green space. That's my concern.
Yeah, when I look at that plan though, Hazel, I see one kind of mock-up, but even the plan doesn't show an L-shaped building there.
Well, this one does.
Get back down here.
The actual plan, though, the only
No, he
thing,
didn't do, I don't know where this plan came from, but as I said, that's the one that struck my eyes as something that, might be more attractive in that particular thought. I mean, I'm not quite sure why this was put on this particular page or whether it's there, but it just, it's got Fisher Street and Gleason Street, so somebody obviously pulled it from somewhere to look at it.
I have 2 questions. In the work sessions, did we talk about the second level on the commercial building, and was that eliminated, and if so, why?
Parug, you,
What was, I'm sorry, what was it?
Second floor on the commercial building?
you
We had
were
brought that
against
up. Did you,
adding a second floor.
why did you get rid of that option?
We had decided in the last conversation that we had in front of the board that, they wanted to put everything all in one building, and when we did do that.
No, we talked about
We
bringing the work
definitely did
session. Yeah, we talked about, in our planning board meeting, talking about the commercial building
Yeah.
as having a second floor.
Right,
So we didn't rule that out.
right. No, you didn't, but in our work session, I presented this particular scenario where we leave the commercial building out strictly from the reasons that financially it has to work out where this thing should make sense. I'm losing those 3 townhouses, which obviously is
So
more
hold on,
valuable.
my question is, the commercial building was ruled out. Why?
You didn't
Putting
want
the second floor in the commercial building.
You were against, at our work session, you were against converting the commercial to residential, right?
We had talked about it earlier than that, but in the work session, we didn't really address talking about.
You said you would not do that in the work
Right.
session.
Yeah, we
But I think
raised
what
this-
John's asking is, would you consider putting a second floor residential on top of those commercial units?
And then dropping down the apartment building to 3 levels rather than 4. That's what we talked about in the previous planning board meeting. And you guys all said you were going to talk about it at the work session, but now I'm guessing it didn't get discussed. So I'm trying to figure out why it was ruled out if it was ruled out.
It's going to be a very expensive proposition for me to tear down that building that's there now and put another floor on top of it. On the commercial building, I'm saying, the one that's there now. okay? And if you do the math, in terms of what I am dealing with here, this is barely making it through for me, And that commercial building was going to be treated as a commercial building and just leave it like that.
I think
As a daycare center or something for the people, to have a small.
So just to clarify, John, we did talk about converting the commercial. Farouk was against, he didn't want to even do a fourth floor because of the cost of putting in elevators. And he was also against doing anything to the commercial building because it would just be even more costly. So I guess maybe if he went 3 stories, he might save money by not having to do elevators. But I don't think his position in the work session was that it was too expensive to start over with that commercial design.
Yeah, but he's not starting over. That was the whole point of the discussion, was whether to put, that was something that I raised, and I know other people raised, that this would be a feasible option, and we wanted to know whether it could be looked at as far as feasibility goes, and just putting a second floor of residential space on that building, and then having stores underneath it, which would seem to me to be a better use of that particular building. I'm just trying to throw out some more creative type plans that, I kind of asked you to talk to your architect about, so that we wouldn't end up with a 4-story square box sitting on that particular piece of property.
So that leads me to my second question. Does the design review board have authority over this project?
Yes,
So would they be able to put in place some facade
yes,
treatments that would not make it look like a box?
yes.
Okay.
I think does design review? Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think that may help address
Might
our
help
concerns
with that, but
about
I'm
the,
just thinking of the height of the building
Right.
compared to everything else that's on that property, and
Yeah.
you're gonna be right on Gleason Street there,
Jim,
and,
Can I ask Jim a question? Yeah, Jim, are the Toll Brother, not the Westborough Village?
3 stories.
Are those 3 stories? Okay. So I think it's a,
They do 3 stories, so they don't have to put in elevators. But I would imagine that it's less expensive to put in an elevator for this proposed project than to do a second floor on the commercial building.
That's
Cost-wise.
That's also 3 stories on a higher elevation, Westborough Village is higher than Dania.
Yeah.
So a 4-story building might actually kind of fit because of the elevation drop.
Can I say something? The elevators is optional, We don't have to have the elevators in 4 stories. The architect let me know that it's not required, but nice to have kind of thing, just so you know.
yeah, I would expect there to be an
I would
elevator
expect
in
it
this building. I think we're marketing, I'd like to see seniors be able to move in there, to the affordable units in particular, so I think that an elevator would be,
Yeah, I think you need the
Necessary.
elevator because you don't want to hurt the value for the properties on that lot.
I'd actually rather see a 4-story building on a smaller footprint than this, and then put some of the units above the commercial, like even that would create more green space. But I feel like we've been at this for so long, I feel like we're at a point where we have to either, we have to balance the cost for the developer with trying to improve the project. We have to look at the benefits of getting the sending parcel. I mean, there's a lot of factors in here, and I'm just getting frustrated with going back to work sessions and coming back here and going back to work sessions. I'm more than willing to do it, but I'd like to move this forward for everybody, for the neighbors, for the board, for the developer. So, we can go back and see if there's a way fiscally and
I don't think he's going to be
design standpoint to do it.
putting
but-
in the effort to do that, though.
Randy had informed me that this particular layout provides 9,800 square feet more of green space, just so you know. So the green space has increased quite a bit.
Is there a way we can request a playground be added?
Well, I think, wasn't there a playground in the, Jim, wasn't there a playground on the original plan? in the
There
back?
was, yes.
Yeah, that's in the back of the project.
And that's,
That was essentially for the, I think it was thought of for the use of the people with the individual dwellings there, so.
Well,
you know,
it's
whether
one
it-
project, so
Yeah,
I think
well, it
anybody
just
in the
depends.
HOA would have use of it.
As I said, there is a question there, the fact, and there were some questions I noticed raised there, which means that people from the new building would be walking through the existing buildings, existing houses that are there to get to any playground. Don't think that was contemplated, you know, originally when the building was, the project was approved. I was not on the board at that time. So I just don't know whether that fits in with what the original idea was.
So you want to limit the use of the playground and restrict anybody in the new building from using it?
Well, I don't know, and what I'm saying is that the problem, I mean, you can't do that. I'm just saying that.
Well, you can do
was
that.
not
You
the
can,
original.
you could add a rider to the master deed or revise the master deed and say the playground is only for use by the 15 existing homes. I mean,
Okay,
I don't
but
agree with that.
You know, I'm just saying that, you know, as I said, it was not envisioned by the original plan to do that.
Well, none of this was envisioned by the original plan, but we're trying to improve the original plan.
No.
All right, you want us to go back to another work session?
For what?
Well, to see if he'll do, if there's a way for him to do residential over,
I mean, theoretically, I don't see why a mixed-use building would not be included in this, but I don't think, given where we are and where we've been, we're gonna get any fruitful product out of having another conversation. He's not gonna put a second floor on this building. It should have been done from the beginning, but it wasn't, so I don't see how that's gonna happen. And I think moving forward, the next owner of the property may look to put a second floor on there.
well, when you say it should have been done from the beginning, there wasn't, you know, that building was intended to be only commercial.
Right, but I mean-
Right. So there wasn't really a contemplation of a mixed use.
No, but Mark, since we began to have discussions about this, one of the points I think, at least I was trying to make, and other people were trying to make, is let's be a little more creative about this, and that was one of the ideas that was brought up, and it was
Right,
just
but-
never followed through.
But this whole time, that building, that shell has been done. So I can understand him not wanting to tear the roof off of a shell that's already done and configured
Yeah,
for
but, you know, at the same
commercial
time, we've
use.
gotten no figures or costs or the difference between things. So, you know, I don't like operating in a vacuum, which, you know, you say, okay, somebody says they can't do that. Well, I want to know why they can't do it and what the costs are going to be because you can't do it. So that was what I was looking for, is that, which we've never had an answer to, is why.
So what is
except
that called,
The
Jim?
builder doesn't want to do
A
it.
pro forma? Is that,
Yes, yes.
can you break down what it would cost to put a second floor residential level on the commercial as opposed to
The fourth floor?
what you're doing now with this?
Okay, through the chairman, again, I have done this so many times, back and forth, the
Yeah, but I
calculations.
raised this question at the last planning board meeting, and somebody was supposed to follow through on it. So this is not the first time you've heard this.
So I did the calculations to find out if that commercial building can be turned into residential. It's not just the tearing of the whole roof, everything is done. All the windows have to be all torn out, because the first floor basically needs to be torn down too, because all the windows that we have placed in there, they're worth about $70,000, $80,000 worth of windows. They're all geared towards a commercial building. So they're all gonna have to go to waste, because you cannot accommodate those windows.
You know, as I said, it's something that I'm sorry was not discussed more fully, is all I'm saying. I mean, I don't want to, I admit this project's been going on longer than it should have been going on. And obviously, I think we probably should move forward at this particular time. But you know, as I said, I am sorry that people haven't been able to be more creative about how to use this space.
I would agree with Hazel. I think we just need to move forward at this point. I think, from the beginning of the whole project. I know it was envisioned as a single-floor commercial, but I don't know why it wasn't multi-story, mixed use in a transit overlay district. But that's neither here nor there. We're not going back to this. We're not changing the district. I think he built something, or he put together something that we've asked for. I'm okay with it.
I am too.
Jim?
Just procedurally for the board, because I'm not going to be here when you write the final decision on this. Just to answer John's question here about why the building wasn't 2 stories. The developer was given the privilege to develop 3,000 square feet of commercial in the first phase of his development. The developer then was given the privilege to develop on his own timeline up to a maximum of 9,000 square feet. So he provided a 3,000 square foot building, reserving the right to develop an additional square footage in the future. So that's why it's a 1-story building. As far as the zoning is concerned, when you finally amend the special permit to allow this increased development on the site, you need to comply with the requirement for the sending parcel. So you're going to need to determine what the overall density bonus is coming from 192 Oak Street. So you're going to have to place a value on that property before you can give him the approval to construct these additional units here at 1 Gleason Street. So don't lose sight of that going forward. I know I mentioned that in the work session. It's not the first time you're hearing this, Farouk, but I just remind the board about that for any of you that have not dealt with our transit-oriented zoning. Make sure you just read that section again so you're clear what's required. You're going to need to make a finding of the value of that property and transfer that density to this site.
Yeah, so let me add to that, John, because when this came to us originally, it was only 4 units per acre, right? 4 residential units per acre. That's conforming under current zoning. And the design envisioned all of the residential units in the back the way they are and the commercial units in the front. Had they come to us asking for the density bonus, then I agree, we probably would have asked for mixed use over residential over commercial. But, we didn't envision the opportunity to get that sending parcel. We didn't,
No, I understand. I
So-
understand how it went down.
So, yeah, I agree. Had this come to us with 34 units on 4 acres, 4.25 acres, we would have looked for some creativity with mixed use, the way we did at Toll Brothers, right? At Westborough Village, where we had a mixture of townhouses and apartment-style buildings, right? But we didn't have that, and we didn't envision this being an opportunity for the town. Now that we have an opportunity to get the 4 acres by the courthouse in exchange for this density bonus, I can understand the developer's reluctance to spend the money to tear apart a building that's basically done. I think we've pushed and pushed to get as much green space as we can, get rid of those townhouses and go get those into the building. I feel like we're at a point where we either have to tell them, we're okay with this concept, or just forget it. I feel like we go back and forth on these work sessions for 6 to 8 months now, and it's getting to the point where we need to make a decision. I do like the fact that design review will get a chance to look at the building and improve the design and make sure that it's fitting with the neighbors, fitting with the character of the town. And I have a lot of faith in their ability to do that. All right. Pete, you've been quiet. You have anything else?
I'm good.
So, Jim, it's a public hearing. Do we want to go to the public at this point? And that's,
I think you should, but just as one other bit of information, the Design Review Board also has the authority on the landscaping on the site. So I know that we have a letter from the abutters concerned about visual screening and access the Design Review Board would deal with the visual screening. So I just put that out there because a fence may not be the best solution. And the Design Review Board is made up of people who have design background. They're design professionals. So I think we should leave that, just my recommendation, leave that to them.
All right, my one other thing I'd just like to raise is I believe that the original project has not been fully completed yet. Is that correct? Therefore, I think we have to be very careful about authorizing the developer to move forward with this project until he has fully completed the other project, which he has not done yet.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We're, one of the things, we got a letter from one of the neighbors about that very issue, and I think we have to make it clear to the developer in any decision, any modified decision, that before he can move forward with a building permit on the new building, certain conditions have to be met. And we need to be very specific on the entire timeline of the project, to make sure that we don't get a situation where some units are done, some units aren't done, people are waiting 2 years to take occupancy. You know,
I think
that's going to take a well-crafted decision.
Well, the other thing is I think it's something that perhaps we ought to approach the present owners of the units to find out what they think has not been completed. And we did, that's important also, is we need some feedback from them. I noticed the letter said, you know, uncompleted, but it didn't tell us what they were. And I mean, I know some of the things that have not been completed, but I certainly want a detailed list.
Well, I think all of that should be in the original decision and the original plan, so the town planner should know it.
So we have a project punch list. There are a lot of things still outstanding. A couple of things Member Nurse brought up about the playground and the landscape in the back. The Design Review Board traded the Victory Gardens for the playground. And I think those items need to be completed. My recommendation to you would be to finish the first project before the second project gets any occupancies. You might even decide before they get a building permit.
No, I
But
think it should
that's up to
I think
you.
it should be done before the building permit.
I agree.
Before any permits are issued, quite frankly. I mean, it's not just a building permit, it's, you know, he's gonna have to start out by digging a hole in the ground and, you know, putting in the foundation and so forth. But I want these things completed prior to that time. I don't want him going in there. I wouldn't want any developer to go in there and begin work on this project until they've fully completed the present project. And the problem is, we're going to begin to get complaints pretty soon about the fact that we're getting into the summer, they can't do planning, can't do X, can't do Y. Well, you know, I've been listening to this for 3 years now, and I'm tired of it. This project needs to be finished and completed as it was supposed to be.
Again, and I think we do need to hear from the neighbors as to what they think isn't done, but they may not know everything that isn't done. And I think that's up to the planner to
No, well, I
make
said
sure
it was a
that everything's done.
combination of what, I mean, I see no reason not to consult the neighbors and find out.
I agree with
It may not be part of what the original plans were, but at the same time, I think we owe them the courtesy of finding out, you know, what things they feel have not been completed either. That's all I've said.
Absolutely agree with that. All right. So before I go to the public, Jim, the next step for us procedurally would be to discuss the density bonus?
Yes.
Okay. And then, once we agree on the density bonus, the new town planner would have to draft a modification to the special permit?
Yes, referencing the old plan, the existing plan, and the modification with the new plan. They also need to make a finding on how this project works with what we call the area concept plan for the entire overlay district. Because as you'll note on this plan, the approved plan and the proposed modification, there's still a pedestrian connection from 1 Gleason Street to Westborough Village. So that needs to be complete. That's how this project connects to the overall area, and that needs to be completed prior to his moving to this second phase.
So, but there's a lot more submissions to be done by the developer, right?
Oh, yeah.
Engineering.
He needs a full site plan. I mean, all he's got right now is a concept.
All right, so really, the voting on the density bonus would only give him direction to go forward and,
And you should do that. You don't need to have a decision for that, but that needs to be noted in the final decision. But you should vote so that he can do a real site plan, what his density is. Because that's what's determining his parking layout. That's what's determining his coverage. Those things are all important, so you need the density bonus now. And then, as you had discussed, you should put him on notice that the final decision is going to require that he complete all of the requirements of the initial development. 1 Gleason Street, what we know as Village Commons, needs to be complete before he moves to the new phase of the new modified special permit.
okay,
Do we know exactly what the acreage is on this? Do we have?
4.29 acres?
Yes, we know what the
Know
acreage is,
exactly,
yes.
all right.
So he currently has 4 units an acre, actually just under. 19 units would bring him up to 34 units, that's 7.92 units. So the density bonus would be another 4 units per acre.
Yes. See, Hazel,
34 units would then result in a total of 7 affordable units minus the 4 that he's already done 4?
Sorry.
How many affordables do you have in the exit?
4.
Right, so there'd be 3 more affordable in this building,
Correct.
presumably 1 of each type of unit.
So can we just specify ahead of time, it doesn't have to be voted on, but just so we can point back to this meeting, to Mr. Ansari, that we expect each affordable unit to be 1 of each type, 1 one-bedroom, 1 two-bedroom, 1 three-bedroom, and then,
Building commissioner will enforce that.
right, but I just don't want him coming back and be like, oh, I never heard that, I never heard you guys tell me that.
Yeah, no, it's,
And then the occupancy for the affordable, to avoid the issue we had before,
Needs to be first.
needs to be first for all of those 3 affordable units. That's going to be something that I would push for in the amendment. So now that you know ahead of time,
Yeah.
that's going to be requested.
The whole building is one building.
I
It's got-
understand,
yeah.
but I just don't want to have any issues like we had last time where we're waiting on the affordable to be done and it's putting everyone
did,
else at a
yes.
delay.
Not on this one. It'll be all at one time. Okay?
And the work schedule, you know, of how the project's going to be completed, I would hope that we stay on point this time because that schedule had to be revised multiple times and we had to have you revise it. So please stay on point when we get to that point.
Okay.
So I would like to go, if I could, make a recommendation to the board that you require Mr. Ansari to have a project manager, and that project manager report to the board every month during the first year of the development of this project, and from then on quarterly, be required, even if there's no progress, to come in front of the board and report to the board on the progress. Not just Farouk himself, no offense, Farouk, not just Farouk himself, but a third-party consultant as a project manager who understands construction and development to keep this project on a timeline. And when you create the performance security for this project, it should be tied to a construction schedule, and he should maintain that schedule. And that project manager needs to report to you how they're doing at reaching that schedule, because if they're off schedule, you can stop him from getting future building permits. That's what will keep his attention on this development.
yeah, Jim, I know you're working on a transition memo. Can you
Put those things in the
put all
memo.
those thoughts, I mean, I know we have it in the minutes, but I want to make sure the new planner has an understanding of
Okay.
those recommendations.
Yes.
All right, before we move forward, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to address?
Did we want to read this letter into?
I think the person
do
who
we need
wrote
to
it
read
was
the-
here.
Yes, because
Letter
you
from the
received it
neighbors,
as
right?
public information. You need to read the letter into the record. Just note the date of the record and who it came from.
All right, we did get a letter today from Govardhanan Ravi, I'm not sure what unit he lives in, but he's a resident in one of the existing, 14 Dania Drive. Dear members of the Westborough Planning Board, I'm writing to you to express my concerns along with other residents' concerns about the proposed new construction project by Ansari Builders in our community. I'm a resident of 14 Dania Drive and have been living in this community for a little over 6 months. Most of us met internally on this, and we are writing to address some critical concerns regarding the upcoming construction project and its impact on the existing community. It is imperative that we take certain measures to ensure the smooth operation and satisfaction of all residents involved. We have several concerns about this project, including the lack of separation between the existing homes and the new construction. The proposed plans do not include a fence or gate to separate the two properties. This is a major safety concern as it would allow people to easily access the existing homes without permission. 2, the lack of separate entrance for the newly constructed property. The proposed plans only include one entrance for both the existing homes and the new construction. This would create a traffic hazard and make it difficult for residents to access their homes. 3, the fact that the builder has not yet completed all the pending exterior and interior work in the current community. We are concerned that the builder will not be able to complete the new construction project on time or to the required standards if they are not able to complete the work that they have already started. 4, the lack of strict timelines and consequences for the builder if they miss the timelines. We are concerned that the builder will not be held accountable if they do not complete the project on time or to the required standards. We are not against the new project. However, we urge you to not approve the new construction permit for Ansari Builders unless they agree to the following. 1, we would like to emphasize the need for a separate entrance for both the existing and new communities. Establishing a distinct entrance is crucial to maintain a clear distinction between the two and prevent any potential disruptions or inconveniences. This measure is of utmost importance to the existing residents. Furthermore, we strongly insist on the installation of a physical barrier such as a fence between the existing residential community and the new development. This barrier should extend from Toll Brothers to Neotech, encompassing the main entrance road. By implementing this measure, we aim to ensure clear separation both physically and financially between the two communities. Specifically, we request a fence to be installed between Neotech and the existing community. In addition to these physical separations, we have several pending tasks related to the internal and external aspects of the existing residential units. To guarantee the satisfaction of current residents, it is essential that these tasks be addressed and completed promptly. We request the builder to allocate the necessary resources and manpower to ensure that all pending items are resolved before the commencement of the new construction. This will minimize any disturbances to the residents and uphold the quality of living in the community. To agree to strict timelines, next bullet is to agree to strict timelines and be held accountable for missing the timelines. And finally, we understand the complexities involved in such projects, but we emphasize the significance of meeting these requirements. By doing so, we can foster harmony between the existing and new communities, providing a sense of security and privacy to residents and maintain the integrity of the neighborhood as a whole. We believe that these measures are necessary to protect the safety and security of the residents of our community. We urge you to consider our concerns and to deny the new construction permit unless Ansari Builders agrees to the above conditions. Thank you for your time and consideration. Okay. Any response to that letter, Farouk? Did you
I
get a
honestly
copy?
think the project will be completed, the one they're concerned about, before we even get the final approval. I mean, you're looking at least a month away. I am like 3 to 4, 5 weeks max to finish the rest of it. The only two major items that are left, besides the main paving, which we said we're not going to do till after the other project is built, is lighting and the backyard, the last piece in the back that needs to be all cleaned up, where the garden spots needs to be created. That's what's left. There was a fence around the dumpster area that is so close to the construction, new construction thing. I may put a little barrier there to make sure that there is no problem with the residents, temporary barrier. So that's why we are waiting on that fence. Otherwise, the poles are all in, the posts are all in, we just have to put those panels to block it. There's not much else is left there. And the final paving, of course. That final paving, I think we've been talking about it from day one, but should we wait till after the other project is done because there's going to be a lot of disturbance there, tearing up things and adding more roadway and all that, so. And get the whole thing paved all at one time. The paving is in a very good condition. There's no need to worry about it. I don't think the residents are too worried about that, or maybe I'm not, I don't represent them, but the three items are the ones that are left. I'm expecting, if the lights come in on time, the ones that I'm ordering, because I'm just waiting for the design review board to approve of one of the things, and then we just go ahead and put them all in. That's not much else is left there.
Okay, well, I think we've made it clear that everything that's incomplete
that's clear.
needs to be done.
And let me just raise, Jim, did the design review board approve the final lighting fixtures?
No.
I didn't think so.
Can I, through the chairman, can I answer her? Yeah. No, we are coming to you very shortly, not you, but the design review board. That's all that's left. You had approved the lighting on the outside of it, but the passage lighting, the pathway lighting was of the major concern. And that was it, that it shows some mushroom-type lighting. I don't want to discuss this here, I'd rather.
No, we don't need to, but I'm saying.
No, I'm
is
just
I
frustrated,
see-
Farouk, because they're 3 years in, and we don't and we're still trying to figure out what lighting is going in there.
Right, and that
I
was-
don't understand why that wasn't approved 2 years ago.
I mean, it was 6 months ago.
Was,
when
but the
we
people
paid
don't
design
like that,
review.
that's what's there.
No,
That's why.
no. The requirement to go to get design review approval has been there from day one, right?
Right.
But you didn't do it until,
Last December, I got the final one, yeah.
Exactly. Last December, we've been waiting.
2 years and 9 months in, 2 years and 6 months in, and they didn't approve the lighting that you suggested, and now we're 6 months later, and you still haven't gone back to them with revised lighting that complies with their,
That's the next item to go to them for.
And I think
very short.
design review was quite clear about what they were looking for.
Right.
all right.
We've seen nothing since last December. So, as I said, that is unfortunately the way this project has seemed to have moved forward.
All right. I would encourage you to iron out all of the design reviews issues before you start building the new building, not just on the existing project, but on the new project. If you bring them a design and they don't like the lighting, or they don't like the siding, or they don't like whatever, get it worked out before you start building, so that we don't have something coming up at the 11th hour, or whatever
I
the
agree,
phrase is.
100%.
All right. It is a public hearing. I'd like to turn to the public. I agree with that. It's the 13th hour. Is there anyone from the public? If you could, just come up and state your name and address, please.
Can you speak up a little bit for the record, please?
Is your mic on? Sorry, Santam. Is your microphone on? Tim, do you know how to turn that?
Okay. Can you hear me now? Oh, sorry. You want me to repeat everything? I don't mind. I can repeat, So, Yeah, I want to make it clear, we are not opposing the project. We want to work with you guys and support the builder as long as, our concerns and all the issues are sorted out. So we are requesting a separation between these two projects, treat them as a separate parcels if there is a way to do it. So meaning that we need a separate fence between these two I would say properties, or what do you treat them as, don't combine them. So this has been brought it up because we don't want to bring a commercial and residential combining. Right now you guys are encouraging.
Yeah, you can use one of those.
Yeah. This project, you guys brought it because of you want to get rid of the commercial, but now you guys are encouraging him to keep the commercial. So we don't know what is, so that's why we are requesting, keep it separate, both projects. So keep a fence between, and also the timing of the project, how long he took the one, right? We waited, literally, myself waited more than 2 years after I pay everything, and so I don't want to take that long this one. So right now, the main concern, look at here, the kids are every day, my kid go to the school bus is stopping right there in front of the commercial building. So I don't want to get any issues during the construction phase of that. So if they separate with the physical fence, I think at least we can reduce some kind of construction traffic, or what you call, so that issues. And every house has issues internally, and there is no proper landscape. There is no, I know you guys are talking about there is a playground behind that. I don't see that, there is just now, we sent an email to you, the current state of the land right now. It's all with the dirt and all his construction material sitting there. We don't even know when it is going to clear. It has been already 2 years. There are other residents living from last 4 years. I don't even know how they are continuing, but myself, I don't want to live in that kind of condition next 5 years, because this project is going to take at least 5 years, I guarantee that. Because of the experience we had with him, we don't want to suffer my kids, I don't want to suffer anyone here with the construction dust and construction material and all these construction vehicles. We don't want to deal with that. So that's the whole point. Everyone, myself and the entire 15 community units are requesting to separate with a physical fence. And look at here, just another example. So there is no proper indication that the dumpster, he put the dumpster between two common units. We are suffering. In a 1 week, the dumpster is getting full. Imagine, all the 19 units, it's going to fill up in a day. So we don't want to deal those kind of issues after the project approval. So that's why there are plenty, but I'm just listing out 2 or 3 examples here.
Hi everyone, Govardhanan, 14 Dania Drive. So, Kristen, can I request you to just show the email that I sent you right now? Is it possible? No, okay. All right, so yeah, so you guys kept talking about the playground. I did send some pictures, like the current state of how it looks.
Yeah, I only have the email from Mr. Ravi. Do you have the pictures? If you send them to me, I can.
No, not that one. I just sent it right now, like a few minutes back.
My guess is there hasn't been much change since we went out and looked at it,
No.
the design review.
If you want to start I can try and get these pictures up.
Sure. Let me just forward it to you before you.
Well, I think Kristen's forwarding me.
Oh, you're doing, okay. So yeah, so like Santosh mentioned, there are a lot of exterior work that has to be finished. There are no proper lights. So we have people who have dogs and we have to walk the dogs in the night. And anything that's been going on right now with like the clubhouse, for instance, there are no proper safety measures that are taken. We have had people who have had flat tires. We have had people who got hurt because of the nails that were lying around because they walked in the night. So these are some of the concerns, and you guys know that the clubhouse has, like, it's been in a building state for a long time. It's been like, the last time we spoke about it, I think it was in December. The clubhouse is still not finished yet. And the electrical wiring to all of our garages, they just started the work on that. There are still about 4 units that do not have. So here is the state of the clubhouse. This is how it is right now. And we have children playing outside. This is the inside of the clubhouse. And there are also pictures of playgrounds that I sent. So I also sent one more email with how the playground currently looks. And every time the word playground comes up, we as residents are shocked because we don't see anything in there, right? Like, it's just all like dirt, unpaved, not maintained,
Playground pictures.
a lot of construction vehicles
Yeah.
standing in there. It should be the email prior to this.
They're just 2 pictures. It says attached playground, but they're not of the playground.
Let me send it right away.
Well,
I think we understand that the playground is just in bad shape, like the clubhouse. I don't know
Yeah.
if we need to see a photo at this time, but I think we get it, and we've said to the developer, he needs to clean up the whole project before he can move forward. with it.
I would agree with that. I think every concern that you brought up, as far as incomplete items, I think we've made it clear we're wholeheartedly in agreement that those need to be done before he starts anything else.
I understand. Thank you for that. And also, there are issues with interior stuff. I do not know
I'm sorry, with what?
the interior of the house. There are pending issues. Everyone has a punch list which has not been addressed. It's the same case for people who moved in 3 years ago, and I was the last resident who moved in 6 months ago, and it was the same case. And if we call asking for help to fix it, we sometimes get yelled at, saying, Mr. Ansari said this. He said, you did not buy $1 million house. He said it to me. He has told it to other residents.
So a lot of builders I know provide a home warranty. Did you provide a home warranty on these homes?
The homeowner warranty you're talking about?
So you're going to fix anything?
Yeah, people go, we have taken care of a lot of things already, and there are some that have not been
All
taken
right,
care of.
so I would
They're all on
encourage,
the-
I would
punch
encourage
list,
all
yeah.
the, I would encourage all the residents to make sure that that punch list is put together, presented to the builder, and copy us on it, and we'll check back with you to make sure that all those items are done.
yeah, but the planning board really doesn't have control over punch list items, and we have control over other things, but we don't have control over punch list items. Should be Fred. The design review, for example, would have control over the playground or the exterior lights, those kinds of things. Those are part of the site plan. But we as a planning board don't have any control over the punch lists that come with the individual units. That's between a homeowner and the builder. So we cannot, as a planning board, force him to complete, we can only force him to complete those things which come under our site plan and under our purview. That doesn't mean we won't do the best we can to have the builder complete what he's supposed to complete. But you have to understand the difference between what the planning board is able to do and has control over and what an individual homeowner dealing with a builder has control over.
I understand.
So we will be glad, to see what we can do to help these things get finished, but please understand the difference between
No, and I agree
those
with
two
that, but
organizations.
my point is I'd like to know what all those things are, and make sure that anything that we do have the authority to enforce completion, we can address.
Sure.
And anything that we don't have the authority to enforce completion, we can strongly encourage. That's,
And
I
then,
feel.
Farouk, I think you better make an appointment to get before the design review board as soon as possible and get this lighting straightened out. It's been 6 months, which I feel is plenty of time
Yes,
to have dealt with this.
it will be done.
I'm
sooner
sorry,
than
did
that,
you have
yes.
anything else before I feel like we turn,
No, just the email that we had and whatever we both spoke about. So that's all the concerns we have as residents.
okay.
Thank you.
Is there any further comments? Sure.
Another point I would like to bring it up here. So the reason why we want a separate treatment for both these is, the main reason, the HOA still, Mr. Ansari is holding it. We requested for him to transfer the HOA. He said he has time until 10 years. He can keep the HOA. So we are thinking if it separate it out, maybe he can release the HOA and he can work on this project. So that's not fair. We have been asking for him for so long. We don't think it's going to happen until you guys treat them as separate.
Okay. Any response
Thank
to
you.
that?
I'm not ready to transfer that, and legally, I have 10 years from the day it was recorded, and this is a little over 3 years. And I think it's going to be transferred very shortly, but let me just get this thing underway, and we'll transfer that. Plus, we have to discuss what we're going to do with the associations too, so there's a little bit of legal mumbo-jumbo involved.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I do think there's a method where you can separate the existing homes into their own HOA, and the new building has a separate HOA under a kind of a blanket master deed, but
Yeah.
with.
Frankly, I was waiting for the board to okay with this. Once you guys are okay with it, then I can talk to the attorney and then find out the ways and means of doing that.
I am concerned with, we're going to need a very specific plan on how you are going to ensure the minimal impact upon the neighbors as far as construction, traffic. I want to know that there's a safe method for their kids to get out to the bus, that when these people are coming home, they're not driving over nails. I mean, I want a specific plan that we can look at, go to the neighbors with, and have them understand that this is how it's going to run to ensure that they're not impacted by this. And I'm sure there's things I'm not even thinking of, but, the construction hours, schedule, there's a lot of things we have to deal with, a lot of moving parts. I don't think we can really address all the nitty-gritty tonight. We've been at this a long time. Go ahead.
Just one quick point that may help the residents understand. During construction, he's going to be required to secure that portion of the site. So the board can require him to put a fence around the perimeter of the area that he's going to work for this multifamily construction. That should separate the existing homeowners from the new site, so that if there's a vehicle entering to work on the new building, it will enter into a fenced-in area, and that fence will remain until that building is complete. So the separation for school-age children is very important, that they have a safe area to wait during construction of this building.
Right, and that'll all have to be laid out in a specific plan by him
Right.
before the permit's issued.
So our step at this point is to what? Do we need to vote on the density bonus tonight, or should we just continue the public hearing?
I would continue the public hearing and then expect to address that at your next meeting.
Okay. Was there anyone else from the public before we move on? All right. Sir, just name and address, please. If you could use the microphone at the podium.
Yeah, my name is Ravi Upu, and I live in 12 Dania Drive. So I know they shared everything.
What was the number? What was your number?
12,
please?
number 12.
12.
Yeah, I seen you a lot of time gym there. So
I know you.
yeah. So one thing I think that people forgot or something, saying a lot of things. So we are looking main for the separate entrance, because that was very tiny. This was a very tiny entrance, and one car comes, another car has to stay. Even currently now. So tomorrow the construction vehicles come, and I don't know how it works. My dog is walking there, Goa's dog is walking there, and my kids going to school, to the buses. I don't know how it is possible. It's so tiny that, what is it called, like Fisher Street? So someone has to come in the car. If the construction happens, or tomorrow the neighborhood comes, the new neighborhood, we have to stay like 10 cars in the line to come inside. And that stops whole traffic on Fisher Street. So we urge and request you to please give us a separate entrance for our community, so that a separate entrance built for them. Because you can visit and tomorrow or sometime and see how it is, if I'm saying right or wrong. It's really very tough, like, to come into that place. Use for like 15 plus, 24? How many families? Like 24 into 2, 48? 15 into 30, like 80 people, at least 40 cars. It doesn't make any sense. It was from there to here. I don't know how it is possible for traffic, like.
Right.
Yeah.
Farouk, is there a way for you to have construction vehicles enter, on the, what is that, the southwest portion of the site?
I have asked
Off of
Randy.
Gleason, instead of using the main entrance that exists
I have
currently?
asked Randy for looking into providing a temporary construction entrance.
Okay.
So we don't have to use the other part. And the fence, I was the one that proposed that earlier, that I will put a barrier right by where the dumpster is, running all the way, so they won't see the nuisance that goes on this side.
Okay.
And that will all be, we'll be looking at that when we look at the site plan. So, this is, these are things which have to be taken into consideration when we looked at the plans anyway. So that's one of the things that will be looked at.
Yeah. I think there was also a question about the size of the dumpster. Are you planning on increasing that?
We had a discussion with Randy, and they're proposing to see if they can put another area of dumpster for this new
For the
building.
new building?
Yes.
That would be even
We
better, I think.
totally
Yeah.
understand that may not be enough.
Okay. All right. So we've been at this a long time. People have been very patient, waiting for other agenda items. I think we have made progress. If there's nothing else from the board, I'd entertain a motion to continue.
I move that the planning board continue the public hearing to modify special permit T-OV number 2014-1 for Village Commons at 1 Gleason Street until Tuesday, July 11th, 2023 at 6:30 as requested by the applicant.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor of continuance? That's 5-0. Thank you, Farouk. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. If there's any conversations on this, could you take, yes, you're done, Farouk, thanks. If you could just take it out in the hall so we can continue our other business. Next item on the agenda, we have a consideration of a proposed minor modification to the site plan approval for Phase 2 of the CSX. I'm sorry, yeah, can we move to this, Steve, because we're going to have the writings and your bond together, and I'd like to hold, I'd like to get this one done first. Site plan approval for Phase 2 of the CSX Transflow Station on Walk-Up Drive. Dan, do you have a presentation you want me to put in? Yeah. Which one, cover?
Yeah, just start with the cover, and then we'll move to the next ones. You want me to start? Sure.
Just name and address, and please.
Great. For the record, Dan Feeney, I'm a professional engineer at Bales & Thomas, and we're located at 144 Turnpike Road in Southborough, Massachusetts. So we're here tonight to discuss the transflow site at 19 Walk-Up Drive. I know a lot of the board's familiar with the project and the site, but the site is located at the end of Walk-Up Drive. So Walk-Up Drive comes off of Flanders Road just to the west of Route 495. And back in 2011, the planning board, actually it was the selectmen, I apologize, the selectmen approved site plan review for a two-phase project, so it included both phases back then. Phase one consisted of 6 tracks, 2 buildings, one being an office building and one being a maintenance building, and other related improvements associated with the project. At the time, back in 2011 to 2012, Phase 1 was constructed. So that consisted of those improvements, the 6 tracks, as well as the buildings out there and the related improvements with those 6 tracks. And portions of Phase 2 were also constructed, including all the earth-moving activity. The planning board did issue a earth-moving permit for the entire project, as well as stormwater structures within the Phase 2 area. So it was all brought up. The project itself, it was a former auto terminal. So it functioned in a similar capacity, but the site was at a very low elevation compared to the corresponding wetland resource areas that surround the site basically on all sides, other than the entrance off of Walkup Drive. So a lot of fill was brought into the site. A modern drainage system was installed that also included spill containment cells and other provisions to protect the environment. The site is bordered to the south of the main line tracks by the Cedar Swamp, an area of critical environmental concern, and there is also a potential vernal pool located just to the west of the terminal. So the proposed modifications to the Phase 2 are pretty minor. It still will consist of 4 tracks, so tracks 7 to 10 will be built. The tracks will be built in a slightly different orientation. So previously, track 7 was located adjacent to track 6, and it will remain in that. Yeah, if you want to go to, go to that one right there, that plan, yeah. So this shows the tracks that were previously proposed and then the new tracks that are proposed. So the red was the previous tracks that were proposed and the blue are the new tracks. So tracks 8, 9, and 10, 8 and 9 were always scheduled to be adjacent to each other, and then there was going to be another pavement gap, and then track 10, and now tracks 8, 9, and 10 will all be within the same curb line. The net result of that is a slight reduction in the total impervious area from which was originally approved during the 2011 permitting. There are other minor modifications as well. On the far eastern side of the site, we are proposing an equipment storage pad. That was an area that was designated for snow storage, so we've shown some updated snow storage areas out at the site. The equipment storage pad is just a best management practice that TransFlow has incorporated into some of their newer terminals to allow for maintenance on any of the equipment that's used at the terminal, just typical maintenance or oil changes, things like that. So if you go to the other sheet 2, if you go back to the
Grading and drainage?
Yeah. Some other modern modifications, the drainage system, the catch basins and drainage pipe that were installed out there in the Phase 2 area will be replaced. It's going to be in a slightly different location than is currently installed, and that's just due to the new arrangement of the track layouts. It's just having those catch basins be located centered between the tracks, so that the slopes coming down from the curb lines are consistent and that the spill containment areas are maintained. And then the utilities, the water line, fire hydrant locations, as well as light poles will be adjusted slightly just again to respond to the new track locations. So that's sort of an overview of the modifications. We have been in front of the Conservation Commission. We needed a new order of conditions because the previous order of conditions was closed out by a certificate of compliance back in 2019. So we did have a hearing with the Conservation Commission last Tuesday night, and they did vote to approve the project and draft an order of conditions for that. The town engineer did issue a review letter that they had reviewed the updated plans and stormwater calculations and didn't take issue with any of the proposed modifications. And we've also had meetings and correspondence with the fire department as well, based on their review of the project. And I believe the fire department letter has been submitted to the board as well. So that's an overview of what we're proposing to modify, but really it's building those last 4 tracks, just in a slightly different arrangement.
Okay, questions from the board?
Yeah, I had a question. One thing which I actually just came to mind as I was looking at this, I saw the letter from Pat Purcell, the fire chief, that they had new fire equipment to help with this. What is the security over there? Do you have someone on site 24 hours a day?
We do have, we have someone on site there. There's a couple things. We have cameras that the fire department has access to. We also have folks there during the day, but Mark, do we have anyone from? No, not 24, but during working hours.
Just during working hours. All right, I guess I'm a little concerned only on that basis is the fact that the change in materials that you're going to be carrying, I'm just concerned because that property is quite a ways away from Flanders Road. So, you know, I'm just a little concerned about making sure that if a fire did occur back there, that, you know, the fire department would know right away or how quickly. So that is just something that
Yeah, and those,
occurred to me.
and they have access to those cameras, so they can see what's going on there at the terminal. But that's the reason we wanted to get in front of this and have the conversations with the fire chief to explain to him what we're going to be moving there. I mean, this is all an approved use.
Right, no, I understand that, but I'm just, as I said, it suddenly occurred to me as I was looking at this site and where it is, that, you know, if a fire occurred there, you know, I want to make sure the fire trucks get there as quickly as possible, and I just wanted to know what the security situation was.
Understood.
And
Oh, sure. Maurice O'Connell, CSX Government Affairs.
Ned Bartlett, outside counsel for CSX.
any other questions from the board? Jim, any comments?
I have no comments. I want the board to note, though, that you need to make a finding if you're going to consider this a minor modification with de minimis changes. I've written you a finding.
Do I need to read these letters from the fire chief into the record?
Yes, it would be good, but please note, this is not a public hearing. You're reading the records, the letters into the record, but this is not a public hearing.
Right. All right, so we did get a letter dated June 12th from Pat Purcell, Fire Chief. This letter is being sent on behalf of Transflow, who seeks to expand their operation on Walk-Up Drive here in Westborough. I've represented the department on several occasions and found the meetings with this longstanding company to be productive. The fire department had 2 concerns about the expansion, and they were, 1, lack of equipment to properly extinguish a fire on one of the rail cars, 2, assurance that the containers were enclosed and free of hazardous materials. Since the last meeting, the fire department has taken delivery of the necessary equipment needed for firefighting that were supplied by Transflow. In addition to this, we have had the opportunity to review all previous permitting requirements and are satisfied that our concerns have been met. We also have a letter addressed to Jim Robbins, the town planner, dated June 20th from Leah Gregorov, Conservation Assistant. After reviewing the submitted notice of intent entitled Transflow Westborough Redevelopment Project, 19 Walkup Drive, Westborough, Mass., dated May 10th, 2023, and associated site plans entitled Transflow Expansion Phase Westborough Terminal Redevelopment Project in Westborough, Massachusetts, dated May 9th, 2023, with revised sheet dated June 15th, 2023. The Conservation Commission voted unanimously at their June 13th, 2023 meeting to approve the order of conditions for the work located at 19 Walkup Drive with special conditions 1 through 25. We also have a letter, it's actually not addressed to the planning board, it's addressed to Fred Leonardo. So I don't think I need to read it into the record, but it's from Lisa Lane. I'm sorry. This letter is addressed to
Dan Feeney.
the Conservation Commission, I think.
No, it's addressed to Dan Feeney.
Okay. Do we need to read that whole thing into the record?
I would
It's
just
not
note
addressed-
it, just note the date and the subject.
All right, so we have a memorandum from Lisa Lane, Town Engineer, dated June 13th, to Dan Feeney from Beals and Thomas. In the summary, the last sentence says, therefore, DPW Engineering has no objection to the Conservation Commission approving the project. Okay, and I think that's it for letters. So, any further comments, questions? If
Nope,
not,
I
I'll,
think it's a de minimis change.
okay.
I think it's a de minimis change as well, but can I suggest a edit to the finding?
Sure.
All right, is this the right time?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the letter from Beals and Thomas dated March 8th, 2023, it says that there's no change in the limits of the development, and I'd like to see that noted in the finding as well.
I actually noted that there's a reduction in the limit of development.
No, it's a
Yes,
reduction in impervious cover.
Oh, okay.
Development.
John's correct. It's a slight reduction, about 4,000 square feet in impervious area. The terminal limits don't change. We're not going to try to pull a slope back or change the fence line or anything like
Yeah.
that, so the
So,
terminal
John,
limits don't change.
Do you want to make the motion then?
Do you want me to make the finding motion and include that with my, I mean, it's not really an amendment because we hadn't made it yet.
Why don't you just do the findings with the...
With that in it?
yeah.
Okay.
Why don't you read the finding into the record with that edit, and then if you're ready to make the motion after that, or
Sure.
we can-
So, proposed finding is, since the proposed modification entitled Transflow Expansion Phase Westborough Terminal Redevelopment Project in Westborough, Massachusetts, dated May 9th, 2023, with revisions dated June 15th, 2023, are consistent with the original site plan approval for the CSX Transflow Terminal at 19 Walkup Drive, approved on September 14th, 2011, and do not alter the total number of side rails to be installed, and there is no change in the limits of the development, and reduce the overall amount of impervious cover on site, and given the favorable review of the proposed modifications by town departments, most particularly the Conservation Commission, the planning board finds that these modifications are minor in nature, and therefore the plan does not require a public hearing with the planning board. And then I move the planning board approve the de minimis changes shown in the plans entitled Transflow Expansion Phase Westborough Terminal Redevelopment Project in Westborough, Massachusetts, dated May 9th, 2023, with revisions dated June 15th, 2023.
Second.
All right, any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? That's 5-0 in favor. Thank you, gentlemen, for your
Thank you,
patience.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you to the
We'll
board.
be in touch. Okay, next item on the agenda, Steve, thank you for your patience. We have release of security bond for the orchards at Quick Farm. We also have a discussion of the Ridings 2 subdivision progress. Are we doing that tonight, or was that just a placeholder?
So this evening, you're going to discuss anything with regard to the Ridings 2. Please understand, though, that Steve is not ready for lot releases or the transfer of the open space. But you also have the Quick Farms, which is on the agenda before
Security
that.
bond, right, okay. I think this Quick Farm, do you want to take that, Jim, or
Sure,
summarize
as you
that?
know, the Quick Farm development was approved by the planning board back in 1998. The town meeting accepted the final road in the development. There were multiple roads this past spring, and there's no need for the security guarantee any longer on those roads. The town now owns the roads. The DPW had certified that the roads were built according to the plan. I will make one note for you in that this is a security guarantee which is secured by a letter of credit. There's not an amount in a bond on file with the treasurer. It's just a letter of credit. So you're voting to release the security guarantee this evening so that Steve then can remove that letter of credit at the bank.
So we're technically releasing a letter of credit.
Correct, but we call it a security guarantee.
Steve, for the record, Steve Casa. What I would request is a letter from the board saying you're going to release the amount, and then copies of the minutes of meeting of the board's vote would be what I would request.
So what we normally do is we send a letter to the collector treasurer stating that we have released the bank from their obligation and attach rather the minutes that shows the
You'll
vote.
copy Steve on that letter?
Sure.
Is that sufficient?
That'd be great, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
And you can get the minutes off our website if you want, or I'm sure, Kristen, you want the approved minutes though, right? We'll have to vote, we won't vote to approve the
No,
minutes
I
until.
think he'd have to have the approved minutes, which have to be signed off the way we normally do by one member of the
I
board.
think you just give a
Officially, yeah.
copy of the minutes there, right? We're not,
Okay.
it's belt and suspenders for us, honestly.
Is it okay
Your
to
letter-
send them the draft minutes before they're approved?
So normally we don't do that. I don't know if Steve's in a hurry for it, he can take a copy of the vote. The vote could be notarized by Kristen,
Yeah.
if that's
fine.
okay.
Okay. I just, again, normally we don't vote on the minutes until the next meeting. I mean.
That's fine.
So I'm reluctant to release a copy of minutes that haven't been approved by the board.
Okay, we'll start with the letter. That might do the trick.
Okay. I do want to expedite this for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Do we have a motion?
I move that the planning board release the remaining balance in the security guarantee for the orchards at Quick Farm.
Second.
Any discussion of that motion? All those in favor? And that's 5-0 in favor, Steve.
Thank you very much.
All right. We do have an agenda item for discussion of Ridings 2 subdivision progress. Do you want to give us an update? I mean, we're.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So we've been working on the roadway a little over a year now. We have the roadway paved with a base coat of pavement. We have removed the cul-de-sac at the end of Harvest Way. We have removed the existing granite curbing, installed new granite curbing. We recently loomed and seeded, hydroseeded the area there. We're actually preparing to plant the street trees on the first, it's about 1,000 feet of road. So that's the entrance, and we finished that for two reasons. One is that it was just being a good neighbor to our neighborhood and the existing abutters. We wanted to wrap up that work rather than drag that work on for excess amount of time. So the second part of that is we've been working on grading the lots on the west side of the roadway, and that material has been shipped off to Grafton, part of the subdivision. So we've got that whole left-hand slope all graded off, and we're in the process right now of as-building that so that we know that where grades are right on. We're within 2 or 3 feet in all that slope, so we're just going to tweak that a little bit. Then we're going to stabilize that area with some of the grindings there, and then in conjunction with that, we have installed probably 99% of the trail network in the open space. We've walked it with Jen, the conservation agent. She had asked that we map it all out and put it on one plan. We're in the process of doing that also. So the deeds have been submitted to the selectmen for their endorsement, but they're waiting for conservation's approval. So the last little bit of the trail system is working on. So all this work here comes to a culmination of we're going to be looking for some lot releases. I've also been working with the DPW as far as coming up with a value of the bond and the amount. And I have that also. I've submitted it to your town planner about a month ago. I've got a bond that's been reviewed by town council. So I have a copy of the bond right here now. It's been signed and notarized by myself and signed and notarized by the bank. So the last portion is for the board to sign and notarize it, and then we're complete. So few different moving pieces to get the lots released. I'm not asking for the lots released tonight, but I'm asking that possibly for the next meeting, we could be prepared to do that. So I'd be looking at lots on the left-hand side, which would be the west side of the roadway, to be released. The bond amount has been set. It's $927,000. That was set by the DPW. So again, I have a copy of the bond. I can leave that with you tonight, or I can bring it back at the next meeting.
So, yeah, no, I think you should leave the copy of the bond. So my understanding is on the 11th, you're meeting with Conservation and and if Conservation votes to approve gives you the green light on the trails, then the Select Board will hopefully accept the deed to the property that night. Is that how you're going to try and do it?
I don't know how the pieces work. We continue to work at all fronts until.
Well, I only say that because our next meeting is the 11th, and I don't know if we should have you on the agenda for that meeting or have you on the agenda for the 18th.
Your meeting is the 11th?
Yeah, we had.
July 11th?
Yeah, we didn't have a meeting on July 4th, obviously, so we have a meeting on July 11th and a July 18th meeting scheduled as well.
I'd like to tentatively put in that meeting if I don't progress with
We can put you on the agenda for the 11th if you've had any progress on, theoretically, if all three boards are meeting at the same time and you go to Conservation, then the Select Board, and then come to us, I guess in theory, it could all, you'd only save a week, because in theory, we would be able to do the lot releases on the 18th.
Okay, so do the 18th, then, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay, we'll go with the 18th.
yeah. So we'll put you on the agenda for the 18th and assume or hope that you're able to execute the deed, that the Select Board will accept the deed after Concom approves the final trail.
Okay.
Or whatever approval that you need to get from them. I think they have to vote on it, right? Or is it just Jen gives you the?
I don't know how it works, honestly.
Well, I don't know how it works either, but I'm going to let you figure it out.
I'll start with Jen and see where it goes.
All right.
All right, Mark, I'm more concerned about, we had a long letter from Lisa about things that needed to be done, and I want to make sure that all those things are completed before we consider any lot releases. So that's my concern, not the trails, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I think we made that clear at the last meeting,
right,
too.
I
Yeah.
just-
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, Mr. Ocasio just raised the question about getting lot releases. Well, lot releases will not be forthcoming until Lisa's approved the project and what needs to be done. So I don't know where you are with the engineer.
I don't have a copy of that letter. I don't have a copy of that letter. If I could have a copy of that letter, I could.
Steve, I think I can get it for you, but I don't have the letter in front of me, so I can't verify if you were copied on it or not. But Lisa did write a letter noting the items that needed to be completed as a critical path. One is that, obviously, the Conservation Commission accept the open space trails. The town accept the deed to the property. But there were issues outlined regarding the work to be done on the site to change the phasing. So stabilization, how you were going to stabilize the slope, those things that we talked about in the work session last week. You were going to get a new plan to Lisa noting how you were going to stabilize the slope and the things that she had talked to you about in that meeting. And so we will want, or the planning board will want, I won't be here, I won't be sitting in this seat, but the planning board will want a letter from Lisa. So your next point of contact should be Lisa with a plan from your engineer. I assume it's still James Tatro working on the plans?
Yes.
Okay. So James Tatro will develop a memo to Lisa with a plan sheet showing the new phasing, because you're asking the board to change the phasing, because originally
Actually,
the phasing was
I'm
different.
not asking the board to change the phase.
You changed that up? Because in our meeting, you were asking.
After further reviewing the plans, we're all within that same phase, the first phase. I checked with James Tatro also, so I'm not asking the board to change the phase.
Okay, well, that's news to me. I don't think the board knew that either.
Well, I have the plan, I can show you the plan, but we can do it another time, too.
Okay, but we will want a letter from Lisa saying that she's
I
okay.
absolutely will work with the
Okay.
town engineer, absolutely.
So glad we had that work session.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously, we'll need a green light from Lisa that she's comfortable with a lot releases,
Absolutely.
so, and I
Yep.
think you understand that.
I do.
So, anything else from the board? All right, thanks for coming in,
Okay,
Steve, and
thank
thanks
you
for your
very much.
patience. Okay, next item on the agenda is vote to release the balance of the erosion control bond for CarMax at 170 Turnpike Road. We have a letter dated, yeah, well, but I'll go back to it, that's fine. Let's finish the CarMax 170 Road. Jim, why don't you summarize this? I have a letter dated March 23rd, 2015, but I don't think I need to read that into the record. That just gives us the amount.
No, that's just an old letter for your information so that you know where the $85,000 came from. Just so, for those of you that weren't on the board, when we approved CarMax, there were two separate bonds. One was $15,000 to be held by the Department of Public Works. You don't release that. However, there was also additional funds in the amount of $85,000 for erosion control and any site maintenance that was necessary during construction of the project. As you know, the project is since long finished. Occupancy has been taken by CarMax, and they have finished all the items on the site plan. So we're now asking that you release the $85,000 that the planning board had control over for erosion control and site maintenance.
Questions? Somebody want to make a motion on that?
I move that the planning board release the $85,000 balance in the erosion control bond for the CarMax project at 170 Turnpike Road.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? That's 5-0 in favor.
Thank you.
Finally, we have a continuation of the public hearing for 165 Flanders site plan review application. I have a letter dated June 13th, 2023, addressed to the planning board of the town of Westborough from Andrew Platt, who is with Bowler Engineering, regarding EG America, 165 Flanders Road. Dear Mr. Robbins, on behalf of EG America, we would like to request a continuance of the planning board hearing for the project at 165 Flanders Road until the next planning board meeting in July. If you should have any questions or require additional information, please do not hesitate to contact me.
Yeah, I thought that at the last planning board meeting, we discussed the fact that we might ask them to withdraw this application and come back again, since all we've been doing is adjourning it. And I would suggest that, yes, we continue the public hearing, but I think someone needs to talk to them and ask them whether there's a thought about withdrawing this application this time, coming back when they're fully prepared to move forward.
Or say this is the last time we're continuing it. Or say this is the last time we're continuing it.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll
but
make a
you don't
decision
want
next
to.
time.
I think procedurally, they'd probably be better off withdrawing than us coming down and saying, this is the last continuance. So if we can get them to withdraw it,
To force them to withdraw, or they're going to get a decision they might not like.
yeah. But I think something needs to be done about this, because we just can't keep continuing this, and we actually have some other matters we may want to think about doing similar work with, things that we keep getting continuances on, and nothing's happening.
Can you, well, then, should we put this on to the 18th or the 11th? 18th. Move it to the 18th, and to give them,
But could we do a letter from the planning board making the suggestion, or somebody check into this so that as of the 18th, we can make a decision one way or another on this?
Jim?
Just for the board's information, I did speak to Andy about this, Andy Platt, at Bowler about a month ago, and he told me that he understands where we're at, but he also told me that EG America is not an American company, and the decisions are not made locally here in Westborough. So he would mention it to them, and I will call him tomorrow and ask him what the status of that is. But it may be that we should ask him to appear physically at the next meeting to emphasize that. I would say that's your next step before you decide to give him a decision he doesn't like. because
Yeah, I
this,
think it-
this is an English company.
I think that's a good point. If he's, whether he's going to request a continuance or not, he should come and explain to us why he needs another continuance and not just, otherwise, he should request to withdraw his application without prejudice. I think that's a good point, Hazel. Thank you. All right. Any other business? I think we have some.
We need to vote on this continuance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Hazel. Do we have a motion then?
I move that the planning board continue the public hearing for the site plan review application.
Can I pause you for a second? It is a public hearing, so is anyone, since it's continuance, I don't have, there's no one here for the public anyway, so go ahead.
I move that the planning board continue the public hearing for site plan review application for 160 Flanders Road to Tuesday, July 18th, 2023 at 6:30 PM as requested by the applicant in letter dated June 13th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 5-0 in favor.
Thank you.
Do we have anything on the July 11th agenda? I'm not going to be here, so I just want to know. if
Well,
we're
we
missing
we
anything.
just continued
Is that the only thing?
Farouk, right?
To July 11th?
Yeah.
Who was? Oh, for Bowler? I think in Farouk's case, it's particularly important that we have the full board here and that perhaps we should adjourn that to the 18th based on the fact that John will not be with us. I just, as I said, this is a project that I think takes
Kristen, can you reach out to Farouk
All
and
the
ask
boards.
him, explain to him that we're going to move that to the 18th, if he is comfortable with that, and ask him if he will request a continuance to the 18th? I think that's good to have the whole board here, I agree.
Sorry, I would have mentioned that earlier. I
Yeah.
did not realize.
But as I said, I do feel it's important. There's some projects where I think it's important to
I
have
think in
the
theory,
full board here.
we'll take a look. In theory, we may not need the 11th meeting, unless we just want to meet with our new planner.
I had one other question about, do you know what the status is of the Rich project, which is another one that's talking about continuances?
The Ridge project, do you,
Rich,
oh, Mr. Rich's project. I spoke to Barry at WDA about that a couple weeks ago, nudging him to move forward because he only has 6 months from the date of approval of a preliminary to submit a definitive, or he has to resubmit his preliminary. And I asked him, just submit me a concept to get it on file, submit an application, but I haven't heard back. He said he knows that. He has a couple projects with us. It's up to them.
okay, I just, as I said, thinking, I was trying to go back kind of and looked at all the projects before you left. They're kind of sitting there in abeyance, so we keep continuing, and
Well, we're not continuing the Ridge project.
Right, but I
That
think-
falls in their court.
I'd like to, see if we can kind of move some of these along and instead of having them languish, which is what we've been doing with some of these projects. So that's all I wanted to say.
Any other business? We have minutes?
No.
Just as, if I could, through the chair. So you're going to have a procedural question about whether or not you cancel the July meeting. If you, and I'm fine with your canceling because I won't be here, but if you cancel it, you can notice that at the clerk and online that you're canceling the meeting, and therefore your next meeting would be the 18th. You've done that before, so you shouldn't feel that you can't cancel the 11th. And I would recommend that you do that if you're thinking about it, and rather than have a member like John miss that meeting, because John needs to be able to vote on that special permit, and you need 4 affirmatives. I wouldn't leave it to having to have a 4-0 unanimous vote. if someone's going to miss the 11th, I think you should continue, given how controversial this particular project is.
So procedurally, since the motion to continue Gleason Street was not to the next meeting in July, it was specifically to the 11th. If we cancel, do we still have to show up and continue with that? Or
No, just have Kristen send a note to the abutters like she always does, so that they have something on record written that we've notified them. And I know she sends emails to their contacts. I would have that be noticed.
All right, so I'll take a look at do we want to make that decision now to cancel it?
I think you should, because this is going out, as you noted, on the air. You should make that
All right.
decision.
All right, well, I'm fine canceling it if that's the only
Do
agenda
you need a
item.
motion on that?
Yes, please.
I move that we cancel the July 11th meeting, and our next meeting will be held on July 18th.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? All right, that's 5-0. Any other business? I will note that this is officially Jim Robbins' last meeting
Yay.
for the time being, for the foreseeable future. No, Jim, we're going to miss you. And then
Thank you.
I think I've said a lot in the past few months about
I'm sure I'll see
how
you
much
again.
we'll miss you, but thank you so much for everything you've done.
It's been a pleasure serving the town for 31 years. I really enjoyed it. But I'll also be glad to get Tuesday night back in my life.
Sure.
Can I say something, Jim? It's nice.
Yeah.
I want to say, from planner to planner, your generation kind of got into planning before it was cool, and really, I don't want to say pioneers of it, but you guys were the ones that really established the career, the profession, and I thank you all for that, and I thank you for that, for working 30 years in a town and really setting up the planning profession for what it is now, for my generation, for the next generations.
Thank you, the baby boomers, huh? And just as a note, maybe to John, doesn't even know this, before there was AICP, there was AIP, and that was what I was a member of. And when that all came out of Chicago, where the Center for American Planning is right now, the professional offices in Chicago, and it wasn't called the American Institute of Certified Planners, it was just called the American Institute of Planners. So, yeah, thank you very much for that. And it wasn't cool, you're right, it was not cool before.
You guys made it cool.
And I just wanted to thank you, I wanted to just thank you really for the work you've put in to really forward the direction of our town. It's made a huge difference, and your leadership in this area has been a real inspiration to the rest of us who are really trying to work within our community and make it a friendly, economically feasible, and welcoming community to everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. I have to say again, the reception party you held for me was really over the top, beyond what I've ever would have expected. I was blown away. Thank you very much to every one of you guys.
I think we all enjoyed it.
All right.
All right.
All right,
With that being said, I make a motion to adjourn.
second.
All those in favor? That's 5-0.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.